the hill is going to go like this. You see what I mean? And this is going to go like this. You're going to have all this, and you're going to have the ground plane, and if you grid off the ground plane a little bit, it helps you with scale. Now again, with environmental perspective like this, you can be pretty loose about it, and you're going to see it. Now the other thing you're going to start noticing is plants are going to conform to these lines. They're going to line up along these lines. Okay? It's really, really evident at Vasquez Rocks, which is why I take people there first. Because what happens there is you'll have a hill like this, and literally it's like little plants like this that just line up in a row. And what will happen is you'll have a little patch of ground, and then these plants will start again over here, you see? Right? It's really obvious. Here it's the same thing, but it's going to be a little less obvious, right? So, yes, you think of the plants as being like this, but you also have to refer to the ground plane as you go. All right? So you always have dual jobs. You have to refer to the ground plane, which is this, when drawing the bushes and everything. Okay? Everybody good? Mm-hmm. All right. Tricks to drawing rocks. Get the outside shape. Don't make it be a silhouette. But when you're drawing the inside shape of the rock, it's a good idea to have it be just a little lighter than a lot of the sections on the outside shape. Okay? That way I see the shape first, and I see the construction on the inside of the rock as just basically supportive elements. Okay? When you get in here, and again, this is not what you're going to see. What you're going to see is a lot of detail in here. And if you start putting that detail in there, that rock is going to break apart. I'm going to take a look at it. You see how it holds together as a rock. If I come in here and I start doing all this stuff in here, you're going to start losing it. You see?
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about the line quality.
The line quality. So basically you can draw the interior of the rock in a linear way, but you want to control your line quality, especially when you're on the light side of the rock like up here. Okay? So when you're coming in here, you're going to go in. See? And again, I tend to say redesign the rock so it has a sense of direction. I'm not a big fan of just copying what you're seeing. I don't see that as a measure of any particular skill that's of importance, especially in entertainment. Okay? So then, on the sides, it can be a little darker, see? But I want to be able to tell the difference between the top of a rock and the side of a rock, right? Which means all the line qualities on the top will be darker, see? And you come in here like this and put it in. Okay? And then I put, see, a bushy thing behind it. And everything, I'm always making sure that I address the ground plane. Everything addresses the ground plane. Okay?
So we're doing like a hybrid between observing our environment and drawing from our imagination, where we take control of the composition.
Yes.
And we use the environment to help us understand the rhythms of the particular plant.
Yes, you're using the environment as a form of inspiration, but you're recognizing that a bush is not an artist; it's just a bush. Mm-hmm. So it's your job to take the bush and make it do what you want it to do. Okay, now, most of the time, people don't come in here and radically redesign the thing, But, what they're doing is these devices also help you to recognize what you're seeing. Like if you see those bushes over there, see? This is going like this. This is a sidewalk that's coming forward like this. And I just want to go, right? Here's the sidewalk coming in, see? And then here's bush number 1. It's right here, so I just get its outside shape. And remember last week, everything you learned last week was to set you up for this week, right? And I come in here, and this is behind it. And then I come over here. Maybe it's in some random place, but I'm going to put it on the same level as this one. See what I mean? To reinforce that. Then I'll come back here and say, well, okay, I'll make these a little taller so I can see that silhouette easier, right? Then over here, see, I'll put in a plant over here. Then I'll come in here and there'll be a bigger plant in the back. But what I'm doing is I'm coming in here and sort of maybe bumping things up and back just a little bit so that they will conform to what I need to create clarity in my drawing. So this is what I'm talking about. You know, when I bring this up at Art Center, suddenly everybody's doing these wacky, cartoony shapes, and that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, you know, you're basically saying, oh, I'm just going to bump it back or forward on the grid a little bit in order to see some of this stuff. I think I sent you Orientalist PDFs. Take those Orientalist paintings and break them down. You're going to discover they break down just like this. It's like math.
It's kind of like
The
you're
Orientalists.
changing it to
Yeah.
make your composition better if the natural world doesn't align with it.
Well, what you find is that the natural world aligns with it more than you think it does. It's not like the natural world is completely different than what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is you're just going to basically bump things back and forth a little bit to push the clarity. Here's the thing. People think that you want to get subtlety in art. And yeah, sure, in certain ways you do. But when you're out here, this is pretty subtle, right? I mean, this is, in fact, so subtle that it'll be something that you can't even figure out. So what you want to do is look at it and simplify it so the viewer knows what it is you're trying to show them. And painters do this all the time. You know, painters, you know, I have a friend that teaches gouache painting. And, you know, if the tree here is 2 feet behind the tree, or the tree behind this one is 2 feet behind, he'll put it 10 feet behind. He'll light it as if it's 10 feet behind. And that's just to make it look natural. If he lights it the way he actually sees it, it will read as flat in a painting. You see what I mean? So painters have been doing this for a long time. This is not some crazy simplification that I'm coming up with. You know, I mean, everything I'm telling you has come out of the last, say, 300 years. So.
But do you feel that usually the way fine art was taught, it seems like there were less rules as, let's say, in design or in product design? Do you think in the past they had to find some of those ruling and they were teaching it? Or was it something they found themselves?
I think what they did is I think what I've done is, and what I think maybe other design teachers have done, I don't know every design teacher, of course, but is I've simplified it and turned them into presentations that make them easy to understand. And I think that in the past, you know, it depends on what time period you're talking about, but, you know, you get a kid when he's 12 and you have him sweeping up your studio. And then when he's 13, he's, you know, fixing your brushes and getting things ready for you to work, and maybe you show him a few things. The whole time he's watching you.
Daughter?
No, she's gonna end up being a scientist of some sort, I suspect. But, you know, but what happens is they, rather than going to college and high school, they would actually sort of, you know, apprentice to somebody. And depending on how good your teacher is, you would pick up these things there. And again, as I was saying at the Getty, what's interesting is not so much how these people arrive at this, but the fact that, you know, people who never knew each other, who lived on different continents and who were separated by time, they, you know, some people were dead when other people were working, they basically agreed that this was the way to set it up. You know,
it's kind of innate.
Well, it's sort of like they did it until it felt right. It just seems that feeling right means the same thing to a lot of different people. And one reason that I teach it this way is because college education is getting so expensive that people have to learn faster. So that means that you make things more explicit and clearer. And I don't see that there's any loss in it, and I see that there's a lot of gain in it. And, you know, if you look at the student work on my Instagram page, you know, you'll see that, you know, they're picking, you know, they're all 19 years old, right? So 20 years old. So you can pick this stuff up really fast. And a lot of it is really, I'm telling them the same things I'm telling you. I'm not, you know, this is the exact same thing as what I was talking about. Okay?
So my biggest